So today I am going to be sharing my story in terms of like background on my family, and then my journey through like elementary, high school, and college, and everything in between. I do get a little emotional in this video, so I'm sorry about that. It's kind of awkward like watching back the video. But it is about my family and the troubles we've gone through, and so I still get emotional about that. So sorry about that. And also I wanted to show you my shirt. So it's from the Latino Medical Student Association, and it's a calavera. I got it at a conference that they had here in Chicago. But it's super cool, and the names are in Spanish, and it's like the calavera is labeled, and I thought it was super cool. It's one of my favorite shirts, and I hope I never ruin it, but it's white and I'll probably get it dirty because I don't know how to eat. Yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. I just want you guys to know that I'm a person, and even though like whatever I post on social media and like Facebook and stuff like that is always like positive, and I always look like I'm doing good and like I'm traveling and winning awards and like research is great. Also, this is Storm. Life has been hard. Like my personal life throughout undergrad felt like it was falling apart, and like we had family troubles and different obstacles, and so that's why I want to share my story, because my life isn't perfect. It's not just me winning awards and living the best life. I try to live my best life, but I'm only human. My family's only human, and there's a lot of problems we go through. But yeah, I hope you enjoy this video. My family has grown up here in Chicago. When my grandma immigrated to Chicago from Mexico, she lived in Pilsen, and that's where she grew up, or like that's where she raised my parents, and she used to work at Nuevo León as a waitress. My parents met when they were really young, and I have my notes here because I have a long life. And so they were teenage parents. My mom was 17 when she had me and my sister, and my dad was 20. And so of course my mom had to take time off of high school to have babies, and eventually she did go back. She did graduate high school, and then years later she went back and got her associates. So woo, mom. And then my dad never graduated high school. He was a gangbanger, and he basically ended up working his whole life at a factory, and is currently still working there. Love my dad. He's the most hardworking person. But just that first part, just naming my parents and where I come from, that shaped me already to be who I am. Because you realize that for me, I realized that teenage moms aren't dumb. They're not stupid for getting pregnant. And you can't necessarily blame them like, oh, why did you get pregnant at such a young age? Like, that was such a bad choice. Like, obviously they knew it wasn't the best choice. And so I, from a young age, started learning like they're people. Like, you can't just judge them by choices that they made in their life, because they're people. They're my family. They're my parents. And same goes for my dad. Like, yeah, I heard he was in gangs, and growing up, he wasn't in gangs anymore, and I knew that. And so for me, he was always my dad. But yeah, sometimes he would get looked at the wrong way, or like cops didn't trust him because of the way he looked. And that for me was upsetting, because he's my dad, and like I know like he's the best guy ever, and he'd do anything for us. But other people don't see him the way that I do because of the way he looks. And so that has always had a big influence on me. especially when like I see these type of patients at my clinic, or like I have friends or family that look like that. Like, they are people, and I remember that. And so if I see a patient that looks like a gangbanger and they look intimidating, it's like, that's it. You're like, oh, hey, what's your name? Okay, what's wrong with you? Like, it doesn't matter. Their background doesn't matter. That doesn't matter to me. And so that already has had a big influence as to like how I treat people and how people come across to me. Like, their face it's just a cover, like it's just a front. That's it. Like, they're a person. And so I ended up growing up in Pilsen as well. My parents took us to school over there, but we lived on the south side, further south than that. And so in Pilsen at the time, it was getting better in terms of like violence and gangs. Like, I think it was worse when my parents were growing up there, assuming from stories that I heard from them. But yeah, I didn't think it was that bad. But there were still gangs, and there were still, classmates doing drugs. And by drugs, it was like marijuana, I think, hopefully, just. And, again, like, even if they were in gangs, I wouldn't be like, oh, that's a gangbanger. Like, oh my God, that's great. No, like, they were my friends. They were my classmates. Like, that meant nothing at all. And a lot of my classmates did come from like families that had someone who was in a gang, and that wasn't uncommon. That was just, I guess, the norm too. Like, no one would be like, oh yeah, my family member's in a gang, because nobody really cared. You're like, oh, okay, that's cool, move on about your day. So what was the homework? Then me and my twin sister, I do have a twin sister, we ended up going to high school up north in Lincoln Park. And that was the first time I started realizing all the disparities. Like, visually, Lincoln Park was so much prettier. Like, they had mansions and, huge houses I had only seen in movies, versus Pilsen, it was a lot of apartment complexes. And I still thought Pilsen was really pretty. But it was different. And, Lincoln Park had like all these restaurants and grocery stores and 7-Elevens and everything like you would need in a community. Like, they had gyms and parks and things like that. Pilsen, the grocery stores, you can count. They weren't that close to each other. And even if it like was a grocery store, like, they would only have tomatoes, onions, cilantro, like your basics. And chips, lots of junk food, sodas, Gatorades, whatever. And you wouldn't find those same corner stores in Lincoln Park. In Lincoln Park, you would find the Whole Foods where you could get your kale, and things like that. So I started noticing these changes right away. I also started hanging out with different people once I was in Lincoln Park, because it was a lot more diverse. And so I remember, like, one of the first weeks of high school, I was like, Mom, I made a Muslim friend. Like, I was so dang excited to make friends of like different backgrounds, because I had never met people of those backgrounds. Like, I had only met Mexicans at my elementary school, every now and then a Puerto Rican, but like, there weren't that many, there wasn't a lot of diversity. And so that was a real shocker. And so after graduating from Lincoln Park High School, I decided to attend Coe College in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. And it was a super small liberal arts school. And I decided to attend that school because it gave me the most money, and I honestly didn't have money to pay for college, like out of pocket. So I wanted to go to the cheapest one, or that I got accepted to. And so I decided to go there, and as soon as I got there, it was a complete like culture shock. Like, it was not as diverse as I thought it was going to be, and it was not diverse at all. Like, there was a handful of like minority students, and like all the minority students that there were all from like Chicago and like Chicago suburb areas. So that in a sense was kind of nice because you all had that in common. But yeah, I didn't like it. Like the only Hispanics that I saw outside of my institution were like the people cleaning the malls and like working at fast food restaurants, and I started to feel really alone and like I didn't belong there. And in terms of schoolwork, like I was doing fine. I liked my professors. I thought the classes were pretty easy for the most part. I just didn't feel like I fit in. And so I only stayed there a semester before transferring to community college back here in Chicago. And so I went to community college for the spring semester and the summer. And that was interesting as well. I was back home and I was super excited to be back home because I love my family. And so I was so happy to be back. And I had my boyfriend here as well. And so like life was great. But school felt a lot like high school. Well, specifically community college felt a lot like high school because class sizes were small. And so like I also started feeling left out because I had friends from my high school who were already at their 4-year institutions and they stayed there for their 4 years. Like I felt like they were on track to graduate and they were on track with their lives, and I was falling behind. And you know, I wasn't at like a real school, and so I felt kind of disappointed in myself in a way, and I just really wanted to transfer into another 4-year institution. And so I think I only ended up applying into UIC so I could transfer over there. And there was no specific reason. I mean, it was in Chicago and I wanted to stay in Chicago, and it was a school closest to home basically. And so, you know, I applied there, I transferred in, I started there I think the year of 2016 in the fall. And right away it was so overwhelming and the classes were a lot bigger, it was a lot harder, or more intimidating to try to talk to professors. I started struggling with my classes because the way I guess like the curriculum is set, you spend more time trying to teach yourself than you learn from a teacher. Usually the like professor just has a PowerPoint and it's exactly what was in the book, and then you just take notes and you either try to memorize it all. I guess that's more in terms of like science classes, that's usually how it works, and I didn't like that setup. And so my classes, it was getting a lot harder and I had to put a lot more effort into trying to pass the class. And so I think the first year that I was there, it was like A's and B's, even though I wanted to get straight A's, and it didn't happen. And then that was my sophomore year, and I also found it a struggle to join different clubs and organizations just because I didn't know what to join and like what I liked. I was like, well, you know, there's the Latino Medical Association, so like maybe I should join that because, you know, I'm Latino too, and like, so I tried to join stuff that I saw myself fitting in, and if I'd like it, I'd stay, and if not, I would try something else. I have my notes here too, so that's why I'm looking down. And while I was working at UIC, while I was attending UIC, I was also working as a barista, and so I started working maybe about like 25 hours a week as a barista, and that was really hard as well because not only did I have like less time to study, I had to work. Now I couldn't always stay after school for clubs because I had to go straight to work. But I had to because I had to pay my own tuition, because I had to like, you know, have money to feed myself and like for public transportation and things like that. And so simultaneously while this was going on, And I went throughout college working. My junior year, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. And that was really tough for everyone, for my mom, for my family. And at this time, I had already done research on breast cancer disparities, specifically among Latinas, which is funny how the way the world works. I had done research with this professor at the School of Public Health, Dr. Molina. And as soon as my mom called me to tell me that she had received her results back from her mammogram and that, you know, she did have cancer, I did my crying, but I called Dr. Molina, and she had all these connections already to oncologists, to other people in the field of cancer that she knew and had good relationships with, and I wanted recommendations on who, like, my mom should see. And so she helped organize that. She helped me create a list of questions that my mom should ask her like oncologist and her like primary care doctor, and like everyone. She had a list of questions she should ask about her cancer. And so that was super nice, just because I felt too that I had a part, and like I didn't feel completely hopeless. But my family did take it the hardest, just because, you know, hearing the word cancer, it's pretty scary. And so, you know, my grandma thought she was going to lose her daughter, and my dad thought he was going to lose his wife, and my siblings were all just scared because everyone else looked scared. And so that was really overwhelming, because I was trying to tell them, like, no, mom's going to be fine. Like, I knew, like, breast cancer wasn't a death sentence, like, specifically to the type of cancer she had. It was less aggressive, and so I knew she was going to be fine. But trying to, like, convince everyone else that mom was going to be fine was pretty hard. Shortly after that, too, my parents ended up getting divorced, and that, I think, hit even harder than the cancer diagnosis, because we were used to seeing our parents together, because we were used to living at home as one big family, and then to have it kind of split, and now, like, kids are going back and forth, your house doesn't feel like your house. It was hard, and it was hard to see my parents go through that, like, the emotional, I guess, toll it takes. It was really hard to see them so upset and so angry, and to see my siblings sad, and, you know, they're feeling confused, like they don't know if they should choose a side, or, you know, like, what's next. And so that also took a toll on my grades, and so I started struggling with school. I ended up failing my organic chemistry lab. I think I had also failed physics, and it was just not going well. And at that point I was like, can I even do this? Like, can I even still want to be a doctor? Because I have never met one doctor who has said, yeah, I failed my science classes and I still made it. Like, I knew no one. And it doesn't mean that they don't exist, I just didn't know them. And so, you know, I started questioning myself. But medicine and wanting a career in the medical field was all I would ever think about. Like, during my free time, I would always try to research, like, what else I had to do to make myself look better. And, you know, what could I do on my part to improve my application? And it's just what I really wanted to do. And so at that point I was like, well, just ignore my grades. Like, I'm gonna do me, and I'm gonna join the orgs I want to, and I'm gonna do the research I want, because that's what makes me happy. And so I kept going on with my research, and while I was winning all these awards for my research, like, stuff was still bad back at home, and like, There was times I would go to sleep crying, I would wake up crying. But I was winning awards. And so research kept me going. Research gave me hope, and it kept me motivated in school. Research was a time for me to be creative and ask all the questions I wanted, and using data that from my professor's projects, I was able to answer all the questions that I had, and it was so rewarding to have answers to questions I had just wondered about. And so that was when I truly felt that I fell in love with research. But I could still not imagine my life without medicine. And so I started looking for possibilities to maybe get my MD, become a physician, but also my PhD. And it turns out it was a thing, and there are programs for that. But another barrier was that they're super competitive, and most applicants, from what I've seen, have extremely high GPAs. Like, they have 3.8s. And I don't have a 3.8, I don't have a 3.9, I have a 3.3. And so then there's that, but I'm like, hey, I have some awards. And so my application is going to be imperfect. There's parts where I fall short, but I definitely have my strong points. And so, you know, I've been really involved in school. Like, I tried to involve myself in like a billion things. And then I was working, and I was a nanny as well, and, you know, doing everything I could on my part to make up for it. And yeah, so undergrad was hard. It was really a time where I felt like my life fell apart, and surprised I even made it out. I remember like the last semester of my time at UAC, I thought I was gonna fail my biochem class, and I was like, oh my god, guys, like, I'm so not gonna pass this class. And so I emailed my advisor. I was like, is there any way I can graduate if I fail this biochemistry class? I was like, because I swear I'm not going to pass it. Like, my final that I had taken, it was a lot harder than I thought. There were some questions I like didn't even study for, and like I felt like it was a total curveball, and I was like defeated. I was like, that's it, I'm not graduating. And he's like, don't worry, you get your grades back after graduation, so you'll cross the stage. And I was like, dang, well, I'll cross the stage, but I don't really graduate, because I really thought I was going to fail that class. And it turns out I did graduate. I did pass the class. I actually did pretty good on that last exam, which, you know, I was totally surprised by, but I did it. And yeah, and so now my plans are to keep staying involved. I'm currently working in a clinic, Mi Medico. It's in Pilsen. Definitely recommend you check it out. Love the doctor there. He attended medical school at Loyola and then did his residency at Northwestern. And he speaks both English and Spanish. His name is Dr. Ray Mendez. And so I've been working there. I started volunteering and shadowing, and just trying to learn what exactly he does, and if that's something I would like to do, like specifically go into family medicine. And after that, I wanted my friends to come and volunteer and shadow, and so I asked Ray if he would be interested in like making a volunteer program. And he agreed, but I had to create it. Like, I had to do the work for it. So I started creating a volunteer program, and we're still in the process of creating it, or improving it. So we came up with a volunteer curriculum, and, you know, we want the students to do research and like get the most out of working at a clinic. And it's a very special clinic because everyone that works there speaks Spanish. And the majority of our patients are Spanish speakers. So it's pretty amazing to see the quality care you can get without that language barrier. And so really love working there, and they're also training me to work as a medical assistant. So that's pretty cool too. And what else? I'm thinking about maybe applying into research positions, like research coordinator positions. But I don't know. Sometimes like I want to go ahead and do it, and other times I like where I'm at. Like I like working at the clinic I work at. So I don't know. I don't know yet. That's in the works. But for sure, by the summer of 2021, I will be applying into MD PhD programs. I decided to wait a little bit. I was initially hoping to apply this summer, but again, because my grades are kind of low, I want the rest of my application to be like outstanding, and to do that I needed this extra year. Yeah, I'm doing that, getting my CV ready, everything ready, starting to draft out personal statements, and so I'll do more videos on that and how I'm prepping my application, and yeah, hoping to apply next summer. Thank you for tuning into this video. Thank you for hearing my story. If you like this video, I hope you subscribe, and please recommend these videos to other students who you think would benefit from it. Yeah, there's a lot of Latinos that would like to become doctors and just don't have the mentorship or guidance that they need. And you know, it would be great for them to see these videos and feel like someone is on their side and someone is helping them. If you have any questions, also comment down below and write them out. If you have any suggestions on videos you would like to see in the future, comment that as well. And hope to see you soon.